people from all over the world. So thank you everyone very much for being here. You know, look, we are transmitting this. We're doing this inside what we call this little event here, Air Meet, right? We are transmitting here. That's where we that's where we do our discussion, right? So if you're not here with us inside Air Meet, I'm gonna quickly share a link for you guys to be here, so we can get started. Mary's already here with us, so hey Mary, good to have you here.
Hello, Bruno. Hello, everyone. Thank you again for inviting me, Bruno. Really excited to be speaking and sharing today. So thank you.
All right. Okay. Awesome. So Mary, what I'm going to do right now, I'm just going to share the link. So for people that are watching us outside of Air Meet, if they want to join us here, if you want to come here and be part of the discussion here with us, feel free to do it. And all right, so let me see here the link right now. Okay, so as you can see there, this is the short link right there. If you want to type in, or the QR code, so you can join the conversation here for us, right? I'm gonna try to be monitoring the YouTube chat and the LinkedIn chat and everything at the same time, right? So it doesn't matter if you are wherever you are right now. If you're watching us, that's great, right? It's gonna be awesome to be here with you anyway, right? So also, if everything worked fine, we are also sharing this to Rafael Del Nero YouTube channel. So if you're watching this and you follow Rafael and you say, hey, that's not Rafael's video, that's Bruno's video. Yes, Rafael is a good friend of mine, and he's distributing this to his audience too, right? So that's what is. So Mokhtar says, what, developer in IBM? I can only dream of it. So yes, we're gonna help you out of this dream, Mokhtar. We're gonna discuss how you can get there. So if you're watching this anywhere, see the link. Join us here if you want. It's easier to have a conversation here if you want. But I'm gonna also try to monitor the questions, right? So so before we get started, I want you to say hello in the chat. Say hello in the chat. Tell us where you're from. Tell your situation if you want to. Because we're already here. It's starting and everything is great, right? So join us here, and let me now introduce our guest, right? So hey Mary, so great to be here with you. Mary is a development advocate at IBM. She's also coordinator of the Chicago Java User Group, right? So it's awesome, an awesome user group in Chicago. She's also coordinator of the API and microservice track at the Developers Conference that's going to happen next week. So hey Mary, so good to have you here.
Hello, Bruno. Hello, everybody. I already am seeing a few folks saying things on the chat. That's wonderful. Thank you. And Mokhtar, in fact, was asking what I eat every day. Okay, we'll talk about that next, in fact. So, okay, yeah, that sounds good. Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much, Bruno.
Okay, Mary, that's so good, Mary. That's so good.
Thank you.
So yeah, we see Bruno is from Goiânia, Brazil, right? Albert is from Brazil, right? So Albert's from the south of Brazil, Porto Alegre. Mokhtar, he's talking before, right? He's from Morocco, Marrakesh in Morocco. So that's awesome.
Nice.
All right.
Very nice.
So okay, so Mary, let me get started immediately with a quick question here for you, Mary.
Sure.
So you are a community lead. Let's start. How about we start with Mokhtar question, right? So your position right now is you're a developer advocate at IBM, right?
Yes.
But what a developer advocate at IBM does, right? So let's start with what is a developer advocate, so people understand what it is.
Yes, sure. Yeah, let me first kind of start by saying what I do, and also too. I mean, to me, like developer advocate can mean different, kind of slightly different, takes on different roles than they are between different organizations, and even within IBM too. So currently, I'm a developer advocate for the WebSphere Liberty team. So it's kind of more tie into some products, right? So then now, as you may know, if you've been following me, I was doing mostly reactive technology. And back then, when I first joined IBM more than 2.5 years ago, I was actually with more of they call it developer ecosystem group. So it's a bit more from the marketing side. So we did not get tie into a particular product group, but it's like Java in general. So I was kind of being assigned, can you do reactive? And that's how I got started. And now I'm just 3 months ago, I started, working for the WebSphere Liberty team. So as such, I focus on also developers and, and as such too, it's still Java, JVM product, which is great. So, but my focus has been more on that side, right? Open Liberty, for example, like all of the open source stack. So some people may still think of, WebSphere and IBM a bit more older fashioned, but no, actually we're all like open source now. So effectively, I'm doing like open source advocacy. Advocacy work involves like outreach, right? Like for example, like this, I get to speak with folks, but it definitely too, as an advocate, I think there's a large component of us doing outreach through presentations. But actually, there are also some advocates that have chosen to do more writings too. So in other words, we're a lot of outreach, but it can be in the form of presentation, you speaking, or you kind of do writings and things of that nature. So kind of it sums up in that's what we do. The idea is to really connect with people. Is you're building up a relationship with other fellow developers, and we try to educate and communicate to you what the products are and what technology it is, and just to get everybody excited about it and also be positive about it. I think that's what is important. So yeah. So yeah, I hope it answers. Yeah, answers you well.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So okay. So now that's what a developer advocate is, right?
Yeah.
But how do you get to become one, right? How do you get to work for IBM and become a developer advocate?
Yeah, that's right. Now, in my case, I think it just so I think the timing was right, and in fact, I wanted to share something. It's kind of like a trace back to how Bruno and I met. And I was actually, already helping out with Chicago Java Users Group, and back in 2015, 16. And then we invited Bruno to come here. Or actually, I should say, we met at Java 1. And so one of the last few versions of the Java conference with Oracle organizing. And it was so great, right? We were putting up a Java community show and all that, the keynote, and Bruno was like, with your Brazilian flag, you were like doing a lot of things. It was so much fun. So that's how I met. So now, how did I get into it? I think it's interesting because of my involvement, right, with the community. And there was an opportunity that came up. And then actually at the time too, I remember talking to Bruno. I said, Bruno, you got to help me because my job was not going anywhere at that point, and with a different company and kind of an older fashioned company. I wouldn't say name, but so it was kind of struggling. I think I was trying to get my ideas across and never got kind of well received. And so, but I learned a lot, on hindsight, I learned a lot about it. But then at the same time too, I was kind of at the point of being explosion. And Bruno said, no, wait, don't do that. And so anyway, I think the timing was right too. And then I thought, this IBM developer advocacy role was opening up. They were looking for people. So I applied, and that's how it happens. And Bruno, really, you helped me a lot because we had a lot of conversations, and Bruno is always so great with like presentations and, all the speaking things. So I learned a lot from Bruno too. So I think, again, sometimes too, we do need to rely on the timing to kind of make things happen because, you can be ready anytime. But I think that's the thing, right? We need to just be prepared. You don't know when the opportunity will come, but it's kind of when you prepare well, when the opportunity opens up, it will happen. So, yeah. So that's how I became an advocate 2.5 years ago. So, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So one thing I want to say here really quick for everyone, right, is that we want to make this extremely interactive, very, very interactive. So I want you to ask questions for Mary. Anything that you want to discuss here about your career. Mary, you have here from the statistic of people coming to the event, right? We have a majority of people. I mean, more than 70% of people here are actually they have more than 10 years of careers, right? So, but we do have people that are starting also. So we have lots of people that want to grow their careers and improve their careers. And we have lots of different questions. I can get some of the questions that people are asking here. But I always prefer to ask to deal with the questions that people are asking right now. So Anand is asking right now. So he's from Trichy, India. And were you ready to be a developer advocate already? Were you proficient in presenting, right? And then were you a developer and an extrovert when you were starting? So how? Yeah. So I think that's a fair question, right, Mary? Lots of people think like, oh, I'm a developer, I'm an introvert, I only want to talk to computers and not to people. How can I start sharing?
Yes, that's actually a very excellent question, Anand, right? Yeah, and thank you, Bruno, for kind of interpreted it, very well. Very good. And so I have to say too, over time, I think I would describe myself as more of an extroverted introvert. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. I came across that term. I'm more like that. So inside of me, I'm more of an introvert. And I think that's why many years. So I've done development, right, for over 25 years total. And I remember myself, I never wanted to do any presentations. And in fact, when I, used to go to meetings, even like within the company, all that stuff, I just tend to like to pick the corner seat. And I think it's just that introvert side of me. But yet, and then it's amazing too. Like I have a lot of thoughts. There have been people also telling me, Mary, you got to come out and say something. And, I think you have a lot in you. You need to kind of present. I'm like, oh, well, nobody's going to listen to me. It's a bit of a self-doubting kind of thing. And the thing is that what I didn't realize was that I actually, certainly, and I think I can speak for everybody. Everybody has his or her specialty, like knowledge, your skills, your talents and everything. But the thing is too, it is very true in a work situation. You may be like only call for certain skills and then maybe you're not as familiar with things. And so when you first join and people weren't as friendly to you or helping you, then you tend to like shy away because you felt like you don't know anything. But the fact is you do have something, but it needs to be discovered or uncovered and developed. And maybe, one thing you have that's good can be led into something else. You have the potential. So anyway, so going back to that, I was kind of more shy and everything, being an introvert. I didn't want to say stuff. But then I think also too is that there certainly is some kind of inner push too, because certainly I felt like, okay, I do have things I wanted to share, but just too nervous about saying it. So then, it's kind of through the miracle of time, you get older and you kind of becoming less inhibited, so to speak. And like I said, right, I got myself involved with Java Users Group, which is a great thing. And prior to that, too, I have to say, well, because of family reason, my daughter was still little. So I was like, okay, I don't have time for that. But yet, when my daughter went to college, and then I remember, well, in the 2013, right? So I was saying, okay, it's time to kind of being back to the technical community. What have I missed? And so I started going to Chicago Java Users Group. And at the time was Freddie Kimei and Bob Holland. They were running it, a really great group. So that's how I got involved. And then eventually, because I really enjoy it, they actually start to ask me, can you help? And that's how I got involved. And because I think of the Java Users Group experience and then also meeting up with Bruno at the Java community events, I think it's just amazing that the whole community is so welcoming. And Amelia from Tommy Tribe, right? It's just an amazing. So it is very true. You do need some kind of external thing to help you too. So I think that's how I kind of got drawn out, of my shell, so to speak. So I became more like, I still have this introvert in me, but I think at the same time too, I also I realize, okay, there's that side of me that I actually do enjoy working with people. I think that's the most important thing. I'm not here to seek fame or something, but it's kind of just, I love the interaction. I think nobody can deny it. I think, even if you are an introvert, you probably love to interact with people. So that's kind of, you can see people chatting, right? Rather than showing their face. And I think that's okay. And it's just, that's how I kind of, that's my journey, so I hope it makes sense. And yeah, so yeah. And Nigel, hello. So yeah.
Yes. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yes, the one thing that I see a lot, Mary, is like developers kind of thinking that that we are introverts because we're developers. And first of all, I see a lot of that's great that you are more like an extrovert person, right? So and that you recognize that, because I think it's so good. Because I mean, for me, software development, I was tricked into software development, right?
Yeah.
Because I thought, like, oh, I don't like to deal with people, so I'm just gonna go work with software
Yeah.
because I can only deal with computers. But the reality is that software is built by people, for people, with people, sold
That's
by
right.
people, marketed by
That's
people.
so true.
There's people all over, right? So there's no way, right? So if
Yes.
you're like me, that you're tricked that, oh yeah, I can just not deal with people because I'm just gonna deal with the computers.
Yeah.
It's important that we do a little bit of people, right? Because
Yeah.
so the people skills are important ones too.
Yeah.
And I think that the way you describe yourself, like an extrovert introvert or introvert extrovert,
Yeah. Yeah.
this whole thing, we can be we don't need to be like, oh, party animals, right?
That's right.
To be
Yes.
able to deal with people, right? We can just
Exactly.
just understand that the thing that we do as software, we solve problems, and
Yes.
problems are problems that people have, right?
Yeah.
So as when you think like this and you start sharing what kind of problems you're solving, start sharing about the solutions to those problems, that's when you start communicating better.
Yes, totally, totally. You articulated it really well, Bruno. Exactly. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, yeah. I think deep down inside we are all social beings too. We can't deny the fact that we want to interact. No matter how we do it. Like you said, it can be through chat. So it doesn't have to. You don't have to show your face. You don't have to kind of speak it out. You can type it. So yeah. So it is so true. Yeah, yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So Anub asks, are there some things that really helped you in the first few steps when you're coming out, right? When you start sharing?
Yeah.
Um, Very interesting that you're sharing so authentic experience, right? Thanks for sharing that. So no,
Yeah.
so yeah, so I mean, what kind of fears did you have when you start presenting and you start, showing up in front of people and you start, becoming a public person, right? What kind
Sure.
of fears did you have at that time?
Oh yes, I can recall that. In fact, let me kind of go back to it's from at Chicago Jug, right?
Uh-huh.
It's every year we do run lightning talks, and so that was like January. Usually we do it December, January, or June and July. So I happened to be with the January time frame, and I remember I said I felt like there was an urge that I wanted to come out and present some things, and then it's nice to you have a community around you that they were like cheering you behind the scenes, like rallying, okay, let's go do it. And I remember myself getting nervous. I was like questioning, gee, I don't really know enough about the subject area. How can I present? And then, at the same time too, I felt like, well, I think I do know enough. So then doing a lightning talk isn't too intimidating. I can prepare. And so I think, to me, I feel, right, lightning talks, like, to me, is really great way of getting started. So and that's how I did. I signed up for that, and also too, what I didn't mention was that at my company too at that time, there was also Toastmasters Club. And so I
Oh.
decided too. And because too, like I said, right, it's like a miracle of time. Maybe that side of me had been suppressed for so long, and not so much about me coming out and be famous or something. It's just that I felt like, there's so much I have that I feel it's time for me to share with people. So anyway, that's how I signed up for Toastmasters. But of course, Toastmasters is less of a, any focus, but it's really general speaking, public speaking. So that's how I started. And so I was in the middle of Toastmasters for almost a year, and then there was this lightning talk
So,
that
so,
came up. So,
so Mary, very quick, can you explain what a Toastmaster is? Because I think
oh
that's
yeah,
there's something more in the U.S. and it took me some time to understand what it was. So if you can
oh sure,
quickly mention what it
yeah.
is.
Sure, Bruno, thank you for reminding me. I forgot to. Yeah, so Toastmasters is this international organization that actually, I think to sum up, is that they focus on helping people to do public presentation. And, it is essentially building up the skills in doing
Hmm.
presentations. And so, yeah, and there are many levels too. So what you usually start, I think they might have changed the format since I was there. I was like 2015, 16 when I joined the club at my company then. And so,
Mm-hmm.
so essentially too, you would follow, there's like a guidebook and you follow, and then you do like 10 speeches. It's more practice, right? Kind of like every time you do a 5-minute kind of presentation and everybody comes together. It's like same thing, right? It's like a meetup group, a community. It's also like very local too, even though it's international, but every city, and it's all volunteer run. So if you're interested in practicing public speaking, I would suggest going through Toastmasters, this training. It's again, no pressure, but it's, if you're not familiar with it, sign up with that. So you basically get a public speaking kind of skills. And because they pay attention to how you do, opening scene and kind of doing visual aid and doing like, your hand gesture or different things, right? So it just helps with the mechanics of doing, if I may say so, mechanics of doing presentation. But then you go into more specialty too. You can be doing like executive level of presentation, things like that. So to sum up, it's a kind of public speaking kind of organization. It should be all over the world and have local chapters and local, kind of clubs everywhere. So, yeah.
Okay, that's so good. So let me kind of move this conversation a little bit, because you mentioned both Toastmasters as a community, right, for speakers, but also you mentioned many times here the Chicago Javas Group as another community, right? So how, and you also mentioned, that we met together in a community meeting inside Java One, right? Yeah. So how does participating in communities has changed your career? Because I think there's a lot of times we talk about sharing, and being extrovert and all of that, but isn't there when you join a community, start participating in a community, like just kind of attending an event like people are having right now, isn't this like an easier way to kind of easy into this whole discussion?
Yes, it is very true. Yeah, exactly. So if I understand your question correctly, it's like coming together like events like this, right? That we can kind of ease in, for like speaking and things like that. So
So how was your participation in communities, right? So how you got started, or how important it was to participate in communities for you?
Oh, how did I get started? So like I said, I think it is very important, like to me, I feel. It is very true too. I may say I have time, to do some other thing, but I think there's a need for people to be more like sharing, I feel. And especially if you, like, how can I say, if I'm answering your questions correctly, it is very important. And then having, like, you gather together for a common purpose, kind of, I think it is very important. And then especially for folks who are also trying to figure out, their journey. And I think being able to see what other people are doing, not exactly telling you this is how you do it, but it's kind of just looking at how other people are doing. Certainly, it helps too. I think and that's why it's very important. Like, I feel that I am not where I am today if I did not have, kind of people that I can look up to, people that I learn from, ever since you're little too, right? You always look up to someone. Oh, I want to be like this or like that. But over time too, you are really seeing so many people, right? Like on TVs and media and in person, you really start to form the picture in mind that where you should be, like your calling. Essentially, it's kind of like a calling thing, and there's no one fixed formula. In some ways, you have to kind of discover what the formula is for yourself, I feel. But you can learn from others. I think that's what is important, that those of us, we are more experienced, we should come out and share with how we do it, and then just share with other people, so then they help them in them while they're discovering their calling. I think, so to speak. So
right. Yeah, that's great. And actually, let me say here, Anita, she messaged directly to me, not in the chat. She said she had to leave, and she says, right, she said, this is so different from all the events and very interactive. Thank you, right? So, I think that's what community brings to us, right, Mary? It's like having this opportunity of being like very interactive, of talking with people, of meeting friends. That's why I call this open conversation by friends to friends, right? Because we are all inside a community. We all become friends, right? We all start, knowing each other and having open conversations and having discussions. So I really, really like this opportunities that we have to be together and share our knowledge, share what we're doing, learning from others, right? Yes. and for this to work, like, let me just kind of tell everyone here, for this to work, you have to participate, right? It can't just be me and Mary here. You have to participate. So so thanks everyone already asking questions, but come on, you're the watching. I see lots of people watching us on YouTube. I see other people watching us from LinkedIn, right? So no, you send us questions, right? Send us questions. Like, I'm looking at all those chats here on the side here. So whatever you are watching this, send questions in. Having a conversation with Mary. If you want to discuss technologies, you want to discuss speaking, you want to discuss community. Mary has been doing this for very, very, very long time. And so Mary, you actually got in terms of technology, right? So I mean, you have 10 years of technology. You've done lots of things. You were a QA engineer. You were a Java EE developer. You worked for big companies. You're now working for IBM. So in terms of technology, right? So how do you keep on? That's a question I get all the time, right? So how do you keep up with technology? How do you learn new things? How do you keep up with stuff? And I know that was a big struggle for you in the past too, right? So how do you handle all of that? Because I think this is a big problem that we all have.
Oh, yes. Another excellent question. Yeah, it's never easy. I do have to say that it's kind of a strange phenomenon that we're living in, right? And I don't think there was another career like ours, right, in history, in times past, in which we're like I feel like I'm like always in a quicksand type of environment. The moment you learn something, it becomes obsolete tomorrow. It's just it is crazy. But to me, how do I keep up with it? I do have to say it's not easy. But one thing I feel it is true is that we do need to then nail down, right, some focus too on maybe, okay, I like, let's say I like networking stuff. And then so I focus on that and kind of spend more time on it. You sort of think of yourself, drill down into some areas and kind of learn it well and learn it to do well. But at the same time too, if we can, right, is to also not be only like blinded by other things. I mean, it is important too. We focus and then we don't, we kind of learn something well, but also be aware, at least be aware of what's around us. I think that may be like one approach. But of course, different people work differently. Sometimes too, I actually have somebody who I'm mentoring, and he's saying that I only can do one thing at a time. And I think that's what most of us are. And it is not easy. But for me, though, I have to say it's kind of funny. That was in my fourth year of my career, right? In the 90s, I should say. So anyway, I remember that time my manager at the time, so I was a young developer, and she was like telling me, hey, Mary, you got to learn how to do multiple things all at once. You need to learn to multitask, and it is very true. I think as you begin your journey, right, and as developer, you tend to focus. You only kind of like look at one thing, and that's okay. You learn it well, but by the time you learn something well, you should really start to spread out and learn how to deal with multiple things all at once. And it's not easy. I'm not saying everybody has to, but if you have that in kind of like a leaning towards that, yeah, by no means, by all means, and kind of try to learn as much as you can and just be aware, even if you don't have time to do everything. And that's just the nature of things. But read up on journals, right? Read up on different kind of, good like sites where you can get information. I think that those are always very good too. And of course, I just don't know how to cite names now. But anyway, if you follow Twitter, right, on some folks, great developers, and yeah, follow them, and they publish something interesting, just at least kind of glance through, get an understanding. I think that's kind of perhaps one of the better ways. Otherwise, there's just no way you can learn everything. And that's what I've concluded too. But yeah, focus on a few, but being aware of what's around you. So yeah.
So this I just want to point out, because what Mary just said here, for me, that is the difference between a junior developer and an expert developer like Mary, right? Oh. This is, I just want to make a point here because that's very important. The fact is, a senior developer is someone like Mary that understands you cannot learn everything. You cannot do everything, right? But at the same time, she understands she needs to have a process to figure out things that she doesn't know, right? So she follows. That's what she said. She follows people on Twitter. She reads journals. She reads blogs. She talks with people. That's what you need. You need to be aware of everything that exists,
Yeah.
right? Because the more things you are aware of, the more things you can learn when you need it,
Yeah.
right? But you understand that you're not aware of just to learn everything. Because if you try to learn everything, you're going to destroy your career because you're never going to learn anything, actually.
Yeah.
Right? So that's awesome, Mary. For me, you just explain to everyone here what it is a senior developer, right? So that's exactly, for me, that's what a senior developer is, right? So, Mary, that question here struck a chord here because, Jared says, that's my main problem as well. Lots to choose from. Mokhtar said, that's mine too. And so, that was, lots of people have this. And then Jared says, mostly learn things as I need them for clients, right? And I have and have a couple of things I personally like and try to keep by. That's awesome, Jared. So one thing that I think a lot, Mara, is that when people want to learn everything, right, is what we call FOMO, the fear of missing out, right? FOMO. And so because people want to, they're afraid, what if I don't learn that? And they ask me in the next interview, what if I don't learn that? And that turns out to be the most important technology, right? So people have this fear. Yeah. And every time we say you have to focus on a few things, people say, but if I focus on Java, do I never learn JavaScript or do I never learn Kotlin? Right? It's like, that's the kind of question. And for me, those things are tools. Yeah. Java, JavaScript, Kotlin, Kubernetes, Java EE, those things are tools. So for me, the most important thing that you should focus on is not on a tool, but on a problem. So what kind of problem do you solve, right? Because if, for example, if you solve problems of, deliver an application fast, right? There's all kinds of tools you're going to have to learn. And I think that's awesome, right? So, so instead of focus on a tool, specific tool, focus on problems. Because if you become a specialist on a problem, lots and lots of people are going to want you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And Bruno, you put it so well, together like that. And I think over the years, that's what I've also come kind of to conclude is that we're not just learning, like how do we do this, all the steps, Kubernetes, of course, you get so many steps, right? If you're not doing OpenShift or something, but all these steps, you're going to set this up, set that up and all that. Guess what? Those things can change because they are designed by humans that, okay, this is how you do it like that. And, between versions too, they can also change. So not to say you don't want to learn it, but, you just have to know enough so then you know how to go about finding out how to solve your problem. If once you understand the mechanics of how to do that. But the important thing, like you said too, is really the concepts. We're solving problems, we're some solutions. We have to understand things more, and I guess so to speak, it's like an architectural level too. So if you can understand that, then basically too, and then you can kind of drill down. Sort of, to me, I feel like I'm taking pictures with a camera. I keep zooming down, kind of like that. Yeah, you know that is a general approach you will take. But how do you solve it? Then you kind of pick the tools that you need. And you always want to pick the right tools for the right job too. Not just saying that, oh, well, this is like the hottest thing, so let's do it. Microservices, let's do it. But guess what? They don't always solve the problem for you. And besides, in fact, talking about which don't mean to say, but microservices too, there's a lot of downsides too. And actually, I was talking to the great performance leader, right, Kirk Pepperdine, the other day. I had such great conversation with him. He was pointing out to me, right, microservices, guess what? Because you get so many components, then all of the context switching, the thread scheduling is the part that's kind of slowing down everything that everybody didn't even think about. And so I thought about it. It is very true because we were just thinking of high level. This is how you do it. But the thing is, all these small things, that's where your detail understanding comes into play, because how do they do communication on a byte to byte kind of byte stream level, operating system level, right? You need to do a lot of switching, right? And then all that stuff, and you need the scheduler to schedule all your stuff. So anyway, so what I'm trying to say is that you do need to have very good fundamentals of all of these things, not just do things, not just saying that I'm using a framework, Spring, I mean, I'm not saying that they're bad, but you can do Spring Boot and all that. But guess what? They are kind of all these kind of, how can I say, like Lego pieces or something, right? That's kind of assemble everything. But I think it's good to understand something deeper so that if something goes wrong, or sometimes, when you need to design new solutions, right? New thing for solving problems. You have the fundamentals of understanding how, the mechanics of all of the interacting parts are. Then with that, you actually will come up with better solutions too. And then you use the right tools for the right job. But anyway, I hope I didn't kind of get too much into all the details, but I'm just trying to express the fact that let's learn, the concepts, understand it well, and then choose to do your tool really well and then apply it accordingly. I think it's what my approach is. So, yeah.
That's awesome. That's totally awesome. Look, that's why I love those conversations, right? Because getting a little peek on how expert developers think, like it's totally amazing, right? I'm learning so much in this conversation. So you were watching here with us. Come on, I want you to ask questions. I know there's a couple of questions we didn't get to yet. I'm going to get to all questions in a minute, but you are watching us, especially if you're in YouTube or LinkedIn, anything like this. Say hello in the chat. Tell us where you're from, right? So we know where you're from. If you're just joining us here, just type something in the chat just to say hello, so we can have a conversation here. So Mary, there's a great question here from Mukhtar, and Mukhtar was here yesterday, and he was talking about how he's a student, and he's just starting his career. So keep this in mind, because his question is, I'd love to start with Java EE, right? Could you give me a roadmap about it? So you are, I mean, you still are very involved in Java EE, right? The Liberty discussion, everything. So, how do you get started with the server side Java, EE, Spring, whatever we should be using now? Jakarta EE, right? Actually, not Java EE anymore. It's Jakarta EE. So how do you get started with the server side Java?
Server side. Okay. So, wow. So how do we start? I think I would say, start by doing things, right? Mm-hmm. It's kind of anytime. Yeah, I know it's hard too. There's so many areas, right? And all that. But let's say, I want to develop some web services so my front end, my browser client can use. Then, start, kind of developing a couple of RESTful web services, for example. And so JAX-RS kind of thing. And so, yeah, and then look for some place where you can find good tutorials and things like that. And I think that's always good to do it. It's good to read too, of course, and then also at the same time, start building something. And to me, I find the best way to learn is, if you don't know how, maybe, clone some code repository, right? And one thing, I don't mean to say shameless plug, in here, but I work for IBM and Open Liberty. We do have some very nice lab materials that you can go to, and I actually can share the link with you afterwards. Openliberty.io. If you go to the guides, actually, it's really good, that set of kind of things. So exercises. So, and you can do it interactively with some of them. There's already cloud hosted, right? So anyway, so that would be one of the things you can start with. And I'm sure, there are Spring Boot, there are other areas. I think definitely you want to pick something. And, in this case, right, Spring is also very popular framework. So that doesn't hurt too, right, to start with Spring or start with, like I said, Open Liberty. We, kind of support like Jakarta EE. So, so anytime you want to start is to really get your hands, roll up your sleeves, get your hands dirty and start playing around. It's like a toy, try to assemble different shapes out of a Lego set or something. Thank you. Thank you so much, Bruno. Yeah, that's right. So
I'm going to put, so that's openliberty.io, right? So I know she mentioned the URL, so I just open here.
Thank you.
And so, I think that's so where should you go here in Open Liberty, Mary?
Yeah, so if you go up there, the menu, there's a guides on the second. That's
guides right here.
So, guides, yeah. I also have shared this with my person that I'm mentoring. So, and he's finding it to be very useful because, say, for example, over here, we're saying that getting started with Open Liberty, right, all of these other aspects, and it supports like microprofile really well. Microprofile is this microservices lightweight library. So a lot of features that are supported by, through Open Liberty too. And also, I'm actually doing a Twitch weekly stream too. I've been also discussing some of these features that of Open Liberty. So if you like to follow me too, and again, shameless plug, if you want
No
to
problem.
follow me.
Yes.
So yeah, on IBM Developer Twitch. So yeah, so I do that on Wednesday. So I would do some topics and discuss about things, and I like to do it so then it's a bit not just Open Liberty, but I try to pick a topic in Java. We talk about some things. This week I'm planning to talk about class loader, just talk about Open Liberty, and let's jump back to some basics, talk about class loader, things like that, right? So it's just more fun, we're not just like learning framework. We're really dealing with something on the more kind of atomic, almost atomic level, not quite, but not bits and bytes yet, but a bit more like bring you to the JVM kind of level. So yeah. So
okay.
Thank you, Bruno. Yeah.
That's awesome. So go to openliberty.io, right? And take a look at the guides. I put the link on the chat if you're watching us remotely. So I see Graciano. It might be Rodrigo Graciano because Graciano, New York, right? So it might be Rodrigo Graciano. So, hey, Rodrigo, good to see you here, man. And he says hello. He's actually on Periscope, right? So he's probably on Twitter right now. So that's great. And there's so many people watching us from everywhere. So that's great. So Nigo says, thank you, Mary, right? So that's great. Okay. So, and look, there's one thing that Mary said that I think is really, really important. I just like to reinforce a few things here. And so the only way for us to learn is by doing, right? So go get a small project, right? So Mokhtar, instead of just learning, right, go get a small project, right? And that's, Mary, I have a funny story about Java EE and Jakarta EE and all those kind of things, right? So all those technologies were made to make it easy for I know they got very complex on time, but they're made to make very easy for especially corporate developers, right? To just crank applications, right? So although it can get very complex because those applications get very, very complex, but the basics, it's very straightforward. So there was one time, many, many, many years ago, right? We're still AGB was still a thing, right? We do talks about enterprise Java beans and things like this. So we were in an event, right?
Yeah.
And there's a guy he's going to be the speaker of the session, right? He's going to talk about AGB, and so we were preparing, right? His session, right? We were on the break time preparing his session. So he answered the phone, and he says, "Hi, Mom." And start talking with I was right by him, and then he starts talking about AGBs, right?
Yeah.
And he starts, but then you have to do like this and this and this, and then he hangs on the phone, and I like, oh man, for a minute I got confused here because I heard you say hi, Mom, and then you start talking about AGBs, right?
Yeah.
And then he said, oh yeah, but that was my mom.
Oh,
really? and I said, your mother's a developer, and he said, no, she's not. Actually, she wanted to do some things, spreadsheets, right? And I was teaching her to do things with spreadsheet, but then she wanted to do more sophisticated things. And it got to a point I said, Mom, you got to learn how to program. So I taught her how to do AGBs, right? But I'm telling this story because it's really, look, the way for you to learn is getting your hands dirty, right? It's actually sitting down and trying to solve a problem, and trying to do something. It's not just like, I need to learn all this, because learning everything never going to help you. But solving a little problem, even a small problem, is going to make a huge difference in your life.
Oh, yeah, totally, yeah. And it's so true, Bruno. And while you're talking about it too, of course, I also forgot to mention, and there are open source projects out there that are, they're in general, right, very welcoming to people contributing. And you don't necessarily have to start coding day one, but usually too, people would come in and start to get, kind of familiarize yourself with the project. And sometimes too, people already are using the project, and you became like wanting to actually contribute to building it. And even like contributing to updating the documentation, that's, really great too, because you help other people to learn it. it. And believe me, if you're teaching, you actually learn more when you are teaching. So let's say, I'm doing presentation. I have to actually know that I need to know how to explain it well. I actually have to learn more than what the subject matter is in order to be able to explain it very well. So this kind of things, right? You can also like work with, right, and participate in an open source projects. You have a community that can help you too. So I think that's also a very good way. Say, for example, Open Liberty is an open source project. If you're interested in joining, you can too. So so
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so a few more questions. So a few more hello. So Thiago is saying hello from Barueri, Brazil. He's actually very close to me. Barueri is the city next to mine. So he's very close to me here. Hey Thiago, good to see you here. Ronnie Mendonça says hi from Santa Cruz, Bolivia. And we have here Jose Carlos he's on LinkedIn, and he says, thanks for all the tips. So hi guys. Hi Jose, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Now, let me move to this LinkedIn question here, Mary. Jose says, would you guys have any online global boot camp to recommend? Do you think, have you ever studied or know anything about boot camps, Mary, that you can say anything about it?
Yeah, so I kind of have a bit of a mixed review, right? Or at least from what I've heard too, because for me, right, I have a bachelor's degree and I really spend the time, on computer science. So really you learn stuff, from sort of like the basic, right? The computer science, you learn, the abstract kind of way, your computers. And I actually, for me, my favorite subject is operating systems. I think it's one of the best thing to learn about is operating system, because if you think about it too, even Kubernetes, right, you are still borrowing concepts, right, from OS is kind of amazing, right? Concurrency, for example, distributed systems. But anyway, back to your question about bootcamp. So I that's what I see, is that it seems as though to me the bootcamp, and I think it's for valid reasons. They are usually put out by business companies, right? So business, they are there to make money. So they just want immediate solution, like immediate things. So they teach you just how to code, They don't, I'm just guessing, they probably won't have time even to go into all the basics, like I said, about computers, how it works, right? All of these conceptual things. So it's kind of a short-term way of doing things is how I look at it. I'm not saying it's all wrong. I mean, we do need, people need to be employed. You need to have jobs and all that. And there are, huge need for people to write good code. But I think just like anything else, if you can afford the time, if you, and I understand, folks are maybe having a job and you're trying to learn coding and switching. That's an okay way, I'd say. I wouldn't say no to learn coding from a boot camp. You kind of focus way of learning how to code. And as such, it's not just like a 6 months thing you can learn. It takes a long time to become really proficient and understanding, your technology stack, what's happening on the different layers. That's actually, to me, is very important, because I'm a person, I like to understand the whole stack kind of thing. Yeah. So I think my suggestion is that, learn it. But at the same time, right, just like what I went back to earlier when I talk about become aware of what's out there. Maybe at the side, right, it's your side project. Maybe devote an hour or two every weekend to start reading on some computer science principle and all these things. I think it never, would hurt, because if you are interested in something, you would want to know and learn more about it. So you have to question your motivation as well. If you're truly passionate about it, you will pick up the book and start reading. You don't have to know every single thing, but just starting to learn, push yourself to kind of learn. I think that's probably a better way than just all boot camp, because boot camp, unfortunately, if you just go by that, make your quick money, it doesn't last. To me, that's what I look at it. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point, right? So I do a little bit know a little bit more about boot camps, because I have a good friend of mine, and by the way, Jose said sure, right? So he agrees with you, right? So so a good friend of mine, Douglas, he is an instructor. He manages the structures of a boot camp, right? I mean, he was instructor, and now he's managing all the instruction on a boot camp. And I think that's pretty amazing that you can get someone that has no computer experience, no development experience at all, right? People, there are accountants, and there are teachers, and there are all kinds of different professions, right? And they can, in 6 months, they can be hired as a developer in a company, right? So I think that's a quick push
Yeah.
And so it could help if you are like if you know nothing, right? You could go to 4 years university or could do this 6 months. And I totally agree with Mary that, of course, it has to be directed to the market, right? But as a first step for you to get immediately into the market and start making money out of this, and you start getting more practice, I think that could be a very interesting thing. But for me, the question I think Jose asking here to be a little bit more specific, he said, has any online global boot camp to recommend? And my point, Jose, is that this type of thing, Douglas had to go online, right, for his thing. And we just had a discussion 2 weeks ago, and he was saying that, the online experience was way less ideal than they expected, right? Because for you to be on a something like this, that's 6 months, you go from zero to developer. It's not easy, guys. It's a lot of work. And so what happens that if you go at a venue and you're there with other people and you are all working together, right? You can do this in 6 months. And what they found out is that if you just don't go online, right? People tend to, it's because like 8 hours a day. It's not like 1 hour a day. It's like 8 hours a day, right? So when people go online, you can't really be productive 8 hours a day online with people, right? It's like, learning. And so what they notice that when people are physically in a place, they actually get to learn those things in 6 months. But when they go online, then, people get distracted and they move out of the computer. And so they're not paying attention. So, be very careful, man, with this whole thing about online global boot camps, right? If you have 6 months to learn things, sit down with other people and go learn. I think that you're going to have a much better result like that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And so, all right. So let me see who else here in terms of questions here, Mary, do we have? Okay, so there's a question from Nigo here, but I'm going to go for Nigo's question. There's one question that I have to go back a little bit, but Nigo says, how can I develop the software that I'm passionate about and also at the same time earn a decent living? That's a hard question right there, Mary. So, how would you suggest he goes about that?
That is hard. I do have to say, if you're passionate about something, but that doesn't necessarily always translate to monetary return. I mean, that's unfortunately is the reality. I'd say, right. And again, sometimes also that's timing too, right? You might be passionate about something, but the opportunity isn't there. So to me, I feel that if you're passionate about something, yes, continue, spending time on perfecting your skills, in that area. And it's kind of like, just be prepared. So then when opportunities arise, then you seize the opportunity, right? So I think then, I feel, right? I don't feel I'm like in a position to advise that, but I would kind of share my thoughts on this is what I feel. Because sometimes too, there's just no control of what opportunities will come along, but I do believe if you have a heart for it, it will happen. I do believe it. So that part I do. So yeah,
I pretty agree with this. But the one thing I would add to that is that for you to work on what you want, and we're going to go a little bit deeper on this. On the last question I see here from Lucian. There's one more question that I want to end with that because that's a very good question. So the one thing I would say is that not only you need to be passionate about, but go talk about it, go share, right? Because the spiral of growth is like this. For you to work on what you want to work, people need to know that you like to work on that stuff, right? If people don't know you like to work on that stuff, they're not going to hire you to work on that stuff, right? So the phrase that I use, it's trust.
Yeah.
Trust. True. When people trust you on what you know, they will hire you on what you know instead of someone else, right? But the way for people to trust you is that they need to know that you know that stuff, right? So the thing is, when you share what you know, people know what you know. Yeah. And when they know what you know, they trust you on what you know. Yes. And so when they need what you know, they call you and not someone else, right? So it's a little bit complicated, but that's the idea, right? When people know what you know, they trust you on what you know, they call you. So go talk about it. Not only if you're passionate about, go talk about it, right? That's how you get your work on the things that you make a decision. Now, we're going to go to the last question here, Mary. But one thing I want to do before that, right, is I want to give everyone here a gift, right? So, but first of all, let me,
no problem.
So he's saying, sorry, Mary, for putting you in a hard spot. No, we're not in a hard spot, man. We're all friends discussing here. Yeah.
Thank you.
So we want you to put us in a hard spot.
Yeah,
that's
actually,
good.
It's good.
So one thing I want to give a gift to everyone, right? So first of all, you register here. So I'm going to send you an email with a book, right? So let me just I'll send an email later. But how about I give you a book right now? Okay, is that good enough, Mary? Let's give. Yeah. I want to give everyone 5 books. I want to give 2 gifts. One's going to be for everyone. Nice. Actually, 2 is going to be for everyone, and a third gift is going to be for people that are really serious. Yeah. All right. So let me share this really quick, Mary, and then we go for last question, right? So First of all, I want to share with you here a book, right? So we have this, me and a group of friends, right? We wrote a series of books called the Low Hanging Series, right? So the Low Hanging Series is this. It's 5 books right now. We're adding 2 more books, right? So it's 5 books, and the idea is that easy things you can do to get started, right? So if you go to this, I'm going to put the link in the chat in a minute. But if you go to this website, you're going to get Yugo Sakamoto's Low Hanging Software Architecture. They're going to teach you how to get good software architecture skills, right? And then the Low Hanging Talks, the book that I wrote, right, it's going to help you start sharing, right? So it has 4 plays and 5 styles of presentation you can start immediately. And then the Low Hanging Code Smells, right? This is from Scott Rishin. Scott's going to be with us on Wednesday, and he's going to talk about refactoring, right? So he shows you how you can get refactoring. And the low-hanging Java challenge, that's Rafael Del Netto, right? So everyone that's on Rafael Del Netto list that's here with us, thanks a lot for that. So Rafael is it's a awesome Java champion, and he teaches you how to deal with challenging things. And the last book is the Low-Hanging Machine Learning from Eyal Wishan. So Eyal is a specialist in artificial intelligence, so he wrote a book to help you, Java developers, to get artificial intelligence. And so you can get all the 5 books right here on the low-hanging books. So that's the URL right there. Type the URL in the chat, get the QR code. So, just access this page right now so you can get the book, right? So that's my first gift for everyone. That's completely free. That's my first gift for everyone. So, Mary, if you ever want to write a low-hanging book, it could be the low-hanging Liberty book, right? Yeah, that's not a problem. So get on board here so we can have these little short books that get people started, right?
Okay. Yeah, I will. Yes, that's great. Yeah.
All right. So that's my first gift, right? So here is my second gift now. So everyone got the link. So get the link right there. Guilherme saying excellent. Guilherme here he's on YouTube right now. So thanks a lot, Guilherme. Jose says maybe should produce some boot camps with deep subjects. Yeah, Jose, if you want to do that, man, if you want to create your own boot camp, by all means, man, go ahead and do that. Let me. So, Mary, yes. Do you think that we should give things that it's that's what you have to do, right? With Liberty, for example, you're giving lots of things for free, right? Yeah. So, is this reasonable to do so many things for free?
Yeah, reasonable. Yes, I believe so. Yeah, to do it for free, it's like one of the best thing, right? For like all developers, we think we deserve a lot of free things. We really contribute a lot, I think, to the world too. Yeah, and we are like pioneers too, right? We're doing things never was done before, yeah, kind of thing. So yeah, and we want more people to participate and help with this evolution, so to speak. So yeah, and I love the fact that Bruno, you also said about we talk about it, right? We talk and can be through writings too, right? You don't have to necessarily be talking if you aren't comfortable. But yeah, anyway, but definitely it's a good thing. So yeah.
Okay, so just so you guys understand, right? So we gave you Mary's contents like on openliberty.io, right? That's all free.
That's right.
5 books for free, right? So
Yeah.
now I'm going to invite you for another free stuff, right? And that is next week. Mary is organizing the APIs and microservice talk a track on TDC, right? So I'm actually going to put the link here. Actually, let me get this link here because there's no QR code for that. So I'm going to put this link here on the chat, right? And I'm going to put here on. Okay, I'm just going to make sure that I have this here. So I'm going to put this link here on the chat, and I'm also going to put on every other chat there. So I missed the chat where the chat is here. So I'm going to put this link here. So if you want to, next week we're going to be running the Developers Conference. The Developers Conference is it's a very, very cool event with lots of different content, lots of different tracks. Mary is organizing the API and microservice track. So here's how that works, right? I'm gonna skip this whole thing here. It explains, the international tracks, so data, Java, artificial intelligence, agile. Actually, we're gonna have for the Java folks, our keynote is gonna be James Gosling, right, the creator of Java.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be there. We're also gonna have special rooms by Red Hat, by CINT, Serverless Guru, Cloud Mary. So we're gonna have all of these. It's great content gonna have next week, right? So you can join through the basic pass that gives you access to some of that content for free, right? And so all you need to do is go back here. There's a form. Get your ticket here, and then there is the basic pass, right? You can just join here and join the basic pass for free, right? So that's one thing you can do and get the basic pass for free. Now, what I'm going to do to you guys right now, and actually I missed, so you can just download. Let me put it here. Did I put it in the chat already? The link? Yeah, I put it in the chat. Okay, so you can go there and you can get the chat right there. Now, one thing I want to give to you, and I forgot to copy. Sorry about that. I forgot to copy the code. All right, so here, let me just copy the code really quick. All right, so I'm going to give you a discount for people that are more serious, that want to actually go into the event and get specific content and get access to specific content from the event. You can go there and you can I'm going to give you a 25% discount, right, on everything on any content that you want from the event, right? Okay, so sorry about that. I'm just copying the code here. I'm going to put the codes. Where can I put the code? I'm going to put the code in the chat. And I'm actually going to read the code out loud if people want to. So if you want to, so that's the code here. The code is TDC-YYB-202, right? So you go here. I'm actually going to show you here. You go here and you just put that code. I'm going to put the code here so everyone's going to see it. Where's the tab with the code? Okay, where is it? I'll mention anyway. Okay, so you enter promo code here, right? And you just type that code I just told you, TDC YYB 202, right? And then you apply the code here, and you get immediate 25% discount if you want to do the tracks, right? If you want to do any of the paid tracks, and then you can get 25% discount right here. So you can do the Java tracks, get cheaper. You can do the data track, get cheaper. Now, here's one more gift. If you use that code, you have to use that code here. You have to use that because that's my code. If you use that code, and you go for the big thing, right? If you go for the Connect Pass that gets you access to all tracks, all the 6 international tracks, and it's $52. If you get that one here, I'm going to give you my training for free. Oh, right? So my training is a $97 training. It's called the Skill Mastery System. So if you go here and apply that code right now, and you get the Connect Pass 6 tracks for 25% discount for $50, I'm going to give you my $97 Skill Mastery System training that was going to help you get any skill as a developer, right? So, going to teach you how to get amazing skills, how to get become a better software developer, how to get known and get the best jobs, right? So that is, you're going to get that for free, right? So you're going to pay $52 and get a $97 thing for free. So how about that? And the cool thing is that then you're going to be able to go to Mary's track, right? And you're going to meet Mary there in all the amazing content she's preparing for you next week, right? So go there right now. What's this Connect track for? So the Connect track gets you all 6 tracks for TDC next week, right? So that is the URL. I'll just put it here. I'm going to copy the URL again, right? And if you miss that, I'll send you an email later on with the details, right? Okay. So, all right, Mary.
Yeah.
There's one last question here that I want to get. So everyone can go there and get the 25% discount and get a free training. It's not free. It's not $97 training for free. But while we do this, there's one last question here that I want to go for, because I skipped that one in the beginning. I'm sorry about that, but I saw it later. So Lucian Mondrevu asked, how do you maintain your relevance as an advanced professional, software architect, in light of new technology, extreme agile, and all this stuff? So Mary, how do you maintain your relevance?
Wow. Yes, that's a very good question, and it's not very easy to answer. It is very true. It's not very easy. But how do I stay relevant? I think, as I think we've also talked about this, we want to stay connected, to the community while we're also doing our daily work too. But like I said, I read on journals and I follow things and kind of not just like shut my door, even though it's important too. Sometimes I do need to so to speak, right, focus on what I need to be doing and not be, affected by all of the social media and everything. And that they do take a lot of time. But it is a tough things. But I think definitely is that you want to essentially pick your battle, right? So to speak, like what is important, you prioritize everything. So you want to definitely be very wise in prioritizing what you need to be learning and doing every day, and focus on that and not be distracted by some of the other things. Not to say you don't want to know, but you still want to maybe be aware, but just not spend as much energy on those that you haven't prioritized as high on your list. Yeah, I think that may be like one of the ways that I can kind of say, to try to stay relevant. You know what is important. You kind of learn too, so that you focus on what's more important is what it is. So yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. All right, so go focus on what's important for you, right? And basically and share, right? So 2 things, right? Go focus on what's important for you and share. The way for you to get relevance is also when you share, right? Share with other people what you know, right? That creates trust and that creates relevance. Okay, so Mary, we're a little bit over time here, and I know I get excited about things, and we go over time here. Sorry about that, but I think we answer all the questions. Let me just kind of take a quick look here at the last, see if there are any more questions. So I just want to say, Marcelo Marques says, great tip, Bruno. Good to listen to you. Thanks a lot, Marcelo. Jose Carlos said, thank you guys from Bahia, North Coast of Brazil. Thanks a lot, right? Wow. So Guilherme says, excellent. Okay, so we got lots of people from different places there. We got lots of people here. Mokhtar asked, what's the Connect track for? So the Connect track, Mokhtar, gives you access to all 6 English tracks for TDC, right? So it's data, Java, API, microservices, cloud, there's agile, there's all kinds of cool tracks. So take a look there. And the Connect track gives you access to all 6 of them, right? So you can choose anything you want. And the cool stuff is not only have access to all 6 tracks, but the Connect Pass gives you access to the recordings, right? So it's very worthwhile to buy that one, because then you can get access to recordings later on. So that is something that you should consider. Okay, so Mary, any last tips and last secrets that we did not ask you about?
I think, we have covered a lot of things. And I think the thing, maybe the final word for today's session is, just, keep your passion. Don't be, don't be affected by what other people tell you and kind of affect your mood, so to speak, right? If you're focused on doing something, continue with it. And like I said, I love how Bruno is like telling everybody to share. Do not be afraid to share. Do not, and to me too, I actually, maybe one last word is that I remember folks when I worked, especially in some IT shops that are kind of got some toxic kind of environment in which they would say, don't share, and because you kind of like have your secrets to other people. But no, the way I look at it is that this industry changes so fast. It's good that you keep sharing and teaching those who come after you to learn, so then they also can take over what you're doing while you move ahead and learn something and do something new. So it's never this stage of saying that, well, I hold on to what I know and not share. But that's not how it works. We do need to share, and we need to pass on the knowledge to everybody. You don't live forever. We don't live forever, right? So it's good to be sharing, and we continue to learn. That this is how it should be. So yeah, thank you, Bruno. Yeah, you have kind of changed the whole kind of kind of interaction in this field. Yeah, making people more coming out, and kind of sharing. So thank you. So.
That's awesome. Thanks a lot, Mary. Thanks a lot for being here with us. It's so great to have you here. Let me just kind of put openliberty.io in the chat for the last time.
Thank you.
And I'm going to invite, I'm not sure if you have any time, Mary. If you don't worry. But I'm going to invite everyone to, when I'm end the session, you can go to the lounge. And in the lounge, there's a set of tables. You can just pick up a chair, sit down in the chair, and then have a conversation with other people, right? Because that's exactly what we need. There's people from all over the world here. It's a good moment for us to meet each other. So don't just stay watching, right? But come and participate. I think that's what we need. So we're gonna go to the lounge in a minute. But thanks everyone. Thanks a lot, Mary. It's so amazing to have you here.
Thank you.
Thanks for everything. Thanks for and look, the rest of the week, we have more people coming up, right? So we're going to have Scott Rishan going to talk about refactoring. We're going to have, Rustan Mehandrov, and he's going to talk about, so he's a great guy. He's going to talk about the future of software development. We have Tatiana from VP of Marketing from Gelastic, right? And she's going to discuss community and how you can improve your non-technical skills. I mean, there's so many cool stuff here the rest of the week. So keep up with us. If you're watching us from YouTube or LinkedIn, please go to my Twitter and register for the event so you can be here with all of us and you can participate in everything we're having here. All right. Thanks very much. Thanks a lot, Mary.
Thank you, Bruno. Thank you, everyone. Okay. I'll be in the lounge. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay. See you there then. Thanks, everyone. Bye. So you go for one table, I go to the next table. All right. So we have two tables. Okay. Thanks, Mary. Bye. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.